Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, tips on how to avoid shipping fever in your animals. Plus, what the purchase of the Swift packing plant means for beef producers. And it's time for the Beef Cook-Off. We'll have details on this year's unique recipes.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello, I'm Susie Ross. Thanks for watching Cattlemen to Cattlemen. The effort to contain foot and mouth disease in England leads this week's cattle industry news. A case of FMD was discovered recently in the county of Surrey, just southwest of London. In 2001, an outbreak of FMD had a devastating impact on Britain's economy, leading to the slaughter of 7 million head of livestock. This time, containment efforts appear to be successful. The disease has been limited to animals on just 2 farms in the area, but officials are emphasizing the need for continued diligence in containing the disease. FMD is no threat to human health or food safety, but it is highly contagious and extremely dangerous to livestock. Thanks to ongoing research and prevention efforts, the U.S. has not had a case of FMD since 1929, but experts warn that FMD remains a serious threat to livestock throughout the world. They encourage cattlemen to always be aware of who is on their property and to promptly report any symptoms of illness in their livestock. Washing clothes and footwear before traveling to another farm or ranch is also an important precaution. Head to cattlementocattlemen.org for more information and prevention tips. A major merger in the meatpacking world. Meatpacking company Swift is now owned by Brazilian firm JBS. The sale was finalized in July. JBS is now the largest beef processor in the world. Swift Government Affairs Chief Chandler Keyes says it's good news for the beef industry.
You're dealing with the same people, but Wesley Batista, the new CEO, has made a commitment to get out in the countryside and go meet with people. He talks to himself as they're just simple Brazilian country people that really will relate to the producers in this country. I think producers will be pleasantly surprised when they get to meet Wesley and his team.
So how will the Swift purchase affect cattle producers? We have more in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
Steve Kay is the editor and publisher of Cattle Buyers Weekly. Earlier this week, he gave us his perspective on the Swift acquisition.
I thought it was the best possible news that we could have had, given all the build-up as to the future of Swift. And for these reasons, firstly, the bold acquisition means no additional consolidation in U.S. beef processing. The other major bidders were 2 of our top 4 packers, and there would have inevitably been further consolidation, the loss of another live cattle buyer, and we might very well have seen closure of the Greeley, Colorado plant. And I think the thing that is a big plus is that Swift will again be run by real hands-on beef guys, and that hasn't really happened since Dick Monfort, whose family built the beef side of the business in the 60s and 70s, retired more than 10 years ago. And now we've got real beef guys running it again.
Kay says JBS Swift seems to have some aggressive plans for its U.S. plants.
Within a day of JBS completing the acquisition, they announced that they were going to push the slaughter capacity at the Greeley plant back up to its full capacity, which is 5,900 cattle per day from about 3,600. That's fantastic news for cattle feeders, in that whole region from northeast Colorado into western Nebraska, and of course for the city of Greeley.
So how do cattlemen feel about doing business with the new company?
I sat down with Wesley Batista, the new CEO of JBS Swift, as they call it, as well as the Director of Cattle Procurement, Steve Williams, a day after the acquisition was completed. And I was very impressed by the professionalism, the sincerity, and the intense focus from the JBS folk. Steve Williams assured me that they were already talking to cattle feeders about new strategic opportunities that they wanted to explore. And of course they'll have to. There's going to be a scramble for cattle.
There is some concern about the merger causing an increase in beef imports from Brazil.
Brazilian beef will be cleared to come to the United States when the USDA so deems it, and not a minute before. And so really they have absolutely no control over the timing of that. So it wasn't in JBS's sights to predicate its move into North America on Brazilian beef gaining entry into the United States.
This isn't the first time Swift has changed hands in recent years. The company, then a part of ConAgra, was last sold in 2002. The country is mourning the loss of a legend. W.D. Farr passed away at his Greeley, Colorado home August 13th. Mr. Farr is being remembered for his many contributions to the cattle industry and is often referred to as the father of the modern-day feedlot. Mr. Farr was a community leader, and his expertise led to posts including president of the American National Cattlemen's Association and chairman of the National Cattlemen's Foundation. Friends and colleagues of Mr. Farr say his contributions will never be forgotten.
I think we'll see decisions and the vision of WD extend well into the future on a number of these issues as we move forward. He certainly has established the groundwork and the direction and had a vision for the industry that was second to none. In 2001, he was the recipient of the Swan Leadership Award, and he was the first recipient of this Lifetime Leadership Award that was given at the National Cattlemen Beef Association convention at that time. And one of the things that he said that has always stuck to me is that as he addressed the audience in appreciation for receiving the award, he said, "We are no longer cattlemen, we are beef producers." And that has stuck with me ever since as to who we really are and who the ultimate customer is that we have to service and to satisfy if we continue to grow demand for our product and if we want to increase profitability for our cattle producers.
The National Cattlemen's Foundation honors W.D. Farr's legacy with an annual scholarship. It supports graduate students pursuing degrees in animal science, environmental science, and agriculture. To donate, please send contributions to the W.D. Farr Scholarship Fund at the address on your screen or head to nationalcattlemensfoundation.org for more information. W.D. Farr was 97 years old.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open-range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today, there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
Fort Dodge Animal Health knows your animals are an important part of your way of life. That's why we're committed to providing you with a complete family of livestock vaccines and pharmaceuticals to protect your investments, save you time, and ensure quality and safety in your operation. Your herd and your horses are important to you. That's why they're important to us. Fort Dodge Animal Health. For more information on our entire family of livestock products, visit us online.
Welcome back to Cattlemen. Prevention is often the best practice. When it comes to protecting your cattle, prevention is key when dealing with shipping fever. Cattlemen's Todd McCartney caught up with experts in Texas to learn more.
There are two words that folks in the cattle industry just don't like to hear, and that's shipping fever. Bovine respiratory disease, or BRD, is one of the most common and most serious infectious diseases in cattle. BRD is costly, to the tune of several millions of dollars. That's the number associated with the loss to stocker operators and feed yards last year. Today I've gathered up Dr. Steve Lewis, consulting veterinarian from Hereford, Texas, to talk to us about BRD, its causes, symptoms, and proper diagnosis. Steve, welcome.
Todd, thank you. Shipping fever, as you mentioned, is a costly disease. Today, we more correctly call it bovine respiratory disease. We abbreviate it as BRD, and it is a complex disease.
Steve, why has it been tagged shipping fever?
Todd, BRD is called shipping fever because it's historically associated with the disease that we see following weaning and then the transportation to our stocker and feed yard operations. The highest risk time for BRD or shipping fever is anywhere from the nursing age through the weaning process.
Steve, can you label one main cause?
There's not one main cause. It's a complex disease, as I've mentioned, and it involves the exposure to infectious diseases and stress associated with weaning, commingling, and transportation. The infectious agents or pathogens are viruses and bacteria. Other stressors, besides those mentioned of weaning and commingling and transportation, would be marketing, involving sale barns and order buyers, handling of the cattle, nutritional deficiencies that we might see following droughts, and these would affect trace minerals, protein intake, and vitamins, and also weather would be another stressor. Stressors have an additive effect. Colostrum's also an important part of the immune status, and that's how much colostrum he received at calving and the quantity of that colostrum. The age of the calf is also very important, and the cow herd exposure. Big ranches with cow units per section have very little exposure, and so their immune system becomes lazy and creates what we call a naive calf. Stressors or pathogens alone cannot cause BRD. It's a complex disease and requires all of these components.
Steve, would you say the symptoms are very obvious?
Todd, the symptoms are classic. Being obvious, it's something that we have to train our people to detect it, at early stages. But the most common symptoms are depression and anorexia, lethargy or weakness or reluctance to move, knuckling of the rear feet, dragging of the toes when they walk. Sometimes they're full of water and they have a sloshing appearance, when they walk. If we were to evaluate these calves at the chute with a thermometer, we'd see that they typically will run over 104 temperature. The disease will progress from there to showing more respiratory signs, and that's where we see an increased respiratory rate, nasal and eye discharges, coughing. We can also see that if we let it progress another step, they'll become what we call moribund, and that's where he's very hard to get up off the ground without lifting their tail. And then from there we see that these animals become what we call comatose, and you cannot get them from the ground, and they are within hours of dying. Every day that we wait to treat this calf, we increase the level of lung damage, and that lung damage is irreversible. And I use a general rule of thumb to talk to my pen riders about that progression, and that progression I see as being around 10% per day, plus or minus. There's some faster pneumonias and there's some slower ones, but that's a good general rule of thumb. 10% irreversible lung damage per day.
When we return, we'll head back to Texas for more guidance on how to best prevent shipping fever in your herd. We'll be right back.
Patience may be a virtue, but when cattle are down with shipping fever, you don't have time to be patient. And that's why Baytril 100 was designed specifically for first-line treatment of bovine respiratory disease, for use by or on the order of a licensed veterinarian. Extra label use in food-producing animals is prohibited. Ask your veterinarian for more information. When it's BRD, patience isn't an option. Choose Baytril 100, right the first time.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Welcome back. Let's head back to Todd McCartney in Texas, who has more on how to avoid shipping fever.
A disease this serious has to have great financial implications.
I think we have to minimize these financial implications by early detection and early treatment. In the Ranch to Rail program that was done in the early 90s, we found from multiple ranches going to the feed yard and following those calves to close out that 28% of the calves became sick and required treatment, and 2.8% of those calves died. We saw also that in a calf that was sick, that he had an average daily gain of 6% less than a calf that was never sick. We also saw in grading the carcasses that on choice cattle that we had nearly 31% cattle less grade choice that were sick compared to non-sick cattle. Our closeout dollars in these calves between a sick calf and a calf that never had been sick was $92 per head. And we see that 2/3 of that was due to performance. Only $31 was due to medicine costs.
Let's talk treatment. There's multiple options?
There's multiple options today. Fortunately. Today, whenever we're treating calves though, we're looking at an antibiotic that is quick, and typically has a bactericidal properties. And that's important when we're talking about the immune status problems of some of these younger calves also, in that we need something to help the immune system whenever it's not there. We can probably only depend on antibiotics, any antibiotic, in providing only 50% of the cure. The other 50% is due to the immune system. So we need an antibiotic in that situation that in a compromised immune system will provide a quicker kill and a more complete kill when our immune system's not functioning.
Steve, what other things could producers do to prepare for or maybe even avoid shipping fever?
Preparation is very important, and the part of preparation that's very important is prevention. And the important parts of prevention would be a good animal health program provided by your veterinarian. We want to, in this program, minimize weaning stresses. We want to determine expectations of morbidity for wherever these calves came from. We want to make sure that we process and treat these calves within 4 to 24 hours of arrival. Our pen size is very important, how we handle these calves when they come in. An important thing is to minimize commingling. Try to keep one truckload separate. Try to give these calves 12 inches or more of bunk space per head. Make sure they have over 200 square feet per head. Another very important thing to help minimize the cost of the cattle that do get sick is early detection, and that's done by riding these calves twice a day. Try to stimulate a team approach to where they understand that if they can't see a calf from horseback, that's not uncommon due to Mother Nature's fight or flight reaction in that calf, and he's trying to hide from them. So often the team approach where a feed truck driver or some other personnel going down the alley might be able to detect him from another perspective that they would never see.
Well, Doctor, visiting with you, it becomes very obvious that it's going to be knowledge and preparation are so vital in diminishing the effects of BRD. And then that's good for producers to know anytime we think about shipping or weaning our cattle. Thank you very much, Steve. Back to you, Susie.
You can learn more about shipping fever prevention at our website, cattlemen2cattlemen.org. We'll be right back with details on this year's National Beef Cook-Off. But first, here's a look at this week's market summary provided by Cattle Facts.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, Now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
Hi, I'm John Osborne with my son Joel Osborne from Savannah, Missouri.
And we're watching NCBA Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
The National Beef Cook-Off is less than a month away. This year's contestants will be putting their skills and recipes to the test in Chicago. Joining me with more is Sherry Hill, project manager of the Beef Cook-Off. Welcome, Sherry.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Sherry, the National Beef Cook-Off has been an integral part of the Beef Check-Off program now for the past 27 years.
Yes.
What's new this year?
Well, we're very excited. The American National Cattlewomen are in their final preparations to host this event. It's going to take place in our destination city, Chicago, Illinois, on September 13th, where we'll have 25 contestants compete for $110,000 worth of prize money with wonderful beef recipes.
Excellent. And there are some new categories this year?
There are. We have 4 great categories: new dynamic beef recipes, Nuevo Latino recipes, Kids in the Kitchen, where kids will be cooking with their parent, and Best of Beef, Small Plates, Big Taste, grilled recipes for entertaining.
Excellent. What kind of impact has the Beef Cook-Off had on the beef industry?
It's had a huge impact from a publicity standpoint. The 2005 Cook-Off generated over 2,000 placements in television, radio, print media, reaching over 357 million consumers with positive beef impressions.
A big part of the Cook-Off success is tied to the amount of media coverage it receives. Tell me about that.
We always continue to raise the criteria involved and increase our number of media that we reach each time. And this Cook-Off, the TV Food Network will be filming their challenge series, and so we're very thrilled for that.
Good. Now that you've picked the finalists, what are some trends that you're seeing in the recipes this year?
Really, really interesting trends. There is a definite health message threaded throughout all these recipes. Fuel for the family, high protein, excellent sources of zinc and iron and B12 vitamins. These recipes have lots of balance in terms of also incorporating a lot of whole grains and produce.
Sherry Hill from the American National Cattlewomen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For more information on this year's National Beef Cook-Off, head to cattlementocattlemen.org. We are enjoying the legacy photos viewers are sending our way. Let's take a look at this week's selection. Hey, you know what? If you're heading to your state or county fair this summer, keep us in mind. Send us your favorite fair photos and we'll highlight some of them on an upcoming episode. To do so, head to cattlemen.org. Next week, tips on how to properly develop bulls, plus a market update from Cattle Facts and the week's cattle industry news headlines. Thanks for joining us on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Be sure to tune in next week. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time right here on RFD TV.